Okay, we are live. Okay.
First world problems.
That is cool. Okay, we are live with episode 28 of Beyond the CMS. Previously, the Web Tech Talk Show, and just really value a moment in time chatting with industry leaders on the value of the future of content platforms, content creation, anything that we can do to serve CMOs on their quest to present their brand information more elegantly. And today, I'm really stoked and super jazzed to have Sven Al Hamad join us from Webiny. Welcome. You're checking in from across the other side of the world. Maybe just introduce yourself and tell everyone about what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Excited to be here and to join you for this episode. So I'm Sven Al Hamad. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Webiny. So Webiny is an open source CMS or content platform mainly designed for large and enterprise businesses to manage their content as well as all the workflows around it. Previously, Webiny actually started as a web agency like many years ago, but then we pivoted into a product that you see today.
Super cool. And from what I understand, you were originally a developer and you are now in the post of CEO. It's great that you made time available today to speak with us and to share access to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. I mean, I studied like computer science. Before that, I think I started coding when I was like 13 or 14. Actually, my first ever a production website was for my school, and that was in Flash. Then I moved to PHP. That's how back I go. And when I started the Webiny as an agency, I was also kind of heavily involved in building a lot of these web pages, working with a lot of different frameworks and technologies. And as we evolved Webiny into the content platform you see today, I slowly kind of focused more on the business side, focused more on the product. I focused doing pre-sales heavily, being in front of customers, understanding what they're after and their needs. But I still oftentimes go back and do a bit of coding. Just like last week, I migrated our blog, which was powered by Markdown on Gatsby, and I rewrote the whole application with app router on Next.js and moved all the content into Webiny headless CMS. So it was, again, a learning journey. I like to check in on technologies, check in on the state of web, what people are doing, what people are using, both on the infrastructure side as well as on the, let's say, technology stack side. Because, I mean, it's an area that inside which Webiny exists. So understanding our environment is very key factor for me to then decide also how that influences our roadmap, influences certain technology decisions. Of course, I have my co-founder Pavel, CTO at Webiny, who is way more advanced in that than me. But I like to have a let's say an outside perspective in while he has an inside out perspective. So, and that's where we kind of have a good overlap in terms of figuring out what technology to pick and how to approach development of certain features and so on.
You just reminded me of the kind of almost a bookend framework. I remember writing, was it Lingo script back in the Flash days? Lingo and ActionScript, good old days. And now we've got AI kind of jumping in here and being mischievous all over the place. But the reason why we're here is to talk about Webiny and maybe just tell us about kind of what the product is at a high level, and then we'll drill into some of the great features and functions and why it's so important to know about your product.
Yeah. So a bit about Webiny. Webiny is a content platform. We say it's a platform because it's not an off-the-shelf product that you just take and use. It's not designed for that. It's designed that you take it and actually you adopt it to your organization, the way your organization works, the way your organization creates content, manages content, publishes content, the way it stores the content, where it's stored. So with Webiny, you have the control of all of that. And Webiny ships with like 5 different products, but then there's a whole developer toolkit that you get access to, so you can customize that experience, build new experiences within the platform. So you actually, we like to say, like, Webiny gets you 80% of the way out of the box, and the other 20 is what makes it unique to you, and that's where you come in and use that developer toolkit. But also what's cool about Webiny is that Webiny has been architected from the ground up to be self-hosted within customers' AWS account, and Webiny uses serverless services. Webiny doesn't run on containers, it doesn't run on virtual machines or servers of any kind. It only runs on services. So we're talking DynamoDB, Lambda, S3, SQS, and stuff like that. What this means is that Webiny can scale from like 1 user to 1 million users without you needing to lift a finger. So although you're self-hosting, you have all of the benefits of data ownership and governance, but you don't incur that big DevOps bill because all of the DevOps work is done by AWS for you. Plus, it's way more secure, it's way more cost efficient, and it just gives you that peace of mind that you don't need to have monitors of uptime. Uptime doesn't exist in our world. It's always 100%, right? So these are just some of the unique features of Webiny, and that's kind of like why we say it's a platform, because you get all of these 3 layers: the application, the developer toolkit, and the infrastructure.
Interesting. You just touched briefly on data and data privacy. Maybe I can ask you to dig into that a little bit more, and maybe, well, there's the current state of affairs in the world today, and where is our data and where's it being stored? Yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's a couple of aspects about, so the important aspects, or what are the important aspects of data governance today? Well, there's you as an organization, right? You're producing your data inside a content management system, right? Your data is your output. It's the result of the hard work of the people on your payroll creating something, and that's the result, that data. And that data has value, right? It had value before AI. Now it has way more value. Why? Because that's the raw ingredient for the AI, right? That's what AI needs in order to be better, to understand the world around us much better. It's that data, right? So first of all, you as an organization have certain responsibilities towards all of that investment that you made, that investment is secure, right? You don't want to be, let's say, using a SaaS vendor. First of all, you're going to lose the control over where your data is stored, who can access it. It's like it's giving the keys to your house to somebody else. You don't want to do that, right? It's not safe. But then today, there's constantly, hey, we've updated our terms of service emails. What does that mean, right? You open it up and there it says, oh, all of the data on our platform that you produced, we can use to train our AI, right? But right. I invested a lot of money into that data. It cost me money, and now you're going to use it to train your LLM, and then you're going to sell that LLM back to me to uplift my subscription. So that's another thing that's not really good. And the third reason, which is a reason that's very important to very large businesses, we're talking enterprises, Fortune 500s and stuff like that, is like you as let's say a Fortune 500, you can't just go and use ChatGPT and create new works or allow your employees to use it. Why? Because there's a certain legal responsibility. If an employee in your company uses ChatGPT to create a new piece of content that goes live, how did ChatGPT create that content or help you create? Where is the source? Or because that content is derivative work of somebody else's work that ChatGPT was trained on, right? And if that somebody else sees that or can drive that conclusion, they can file a lawsuit against you. For you as a large business, you need to understand where did that raw ingredient come from to train that LLM that your employees use to create derivative works out of it, right? If you don't have that full connection or that understanding, you are walking on a thin ice. You're going to be in trouble sooner or later. That's why data is important, because if you have that data, if you own it 100%, nobody else has access to it. You can then use it to train your own machines, LLMs, and then create bots that work for your organization, where you have peace of mind how that data is stored, how the work was created, right? And then we have the geopolitical theme on top of it, where there's, let's say, messy situation around the world today. I'm based in Europe. There's a lot of companies now that are questioning, hey, is our data safe? Will we host with this cloud vendor or that vendor? Do we have an alternative in Europe? So there's questions like that. And again, your data is your existence in some cases. So it is the most important thing. That's why we made Webiny self-hosted, but we made it self-hosted in a way that's super reliable, secure, and cost-efficient. That was very hard to do. Only the serverless technology unlocked that possibility. With containers, you can't do that. With virtual servers, you can't do that. You need to have a service that you trust.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the privacy of data. I think it was a couple of days ago, it looks like Midjourney's getting sued by Disney and the Star Wars franchise for producing Darth Vader images. And it's like, where'd you get that from? Yeah, it's a thing.
Ghibli Studio on OpenAI, when they released the last image gen, right? Everybody was creating Ghibli Studio style cartoons. It's like, yeah. Now you as a company, do you really want to create such an artwork and post it on your website? Because, well, you're lucky if they sue ChatGPT, but if they go a step further, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, good points. You made a decision, I guess, philosophically some time ago to go with an open source philosophy. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And maybe we sell to enterprise organizations, and there's a little bit of reluctance from some folks around open source and how the tooling and infrastructure is supported. But yeah, maybe share a little bit about your commitment to open source and what that means.
Yeah, so why we decided on open source, it has few aspects, but I think the underlying theme there is control. So going open source somewhat automatically implies self-hosting, right? So I talked about the data privacy aspect, and that's unlocked with self-hosting. But then there's the other aspect, which is we work with a lot of large organizations, and no two organizations are the same. They're just at that level, the processes they have are very unique to them, and they can't be off-the-shelf vanilla style processes. So such a product won't work for them, right? So we were thinking, like, how do you build a highly customizable product that can serve any type of a use case while not knowing what use cases you might have? Right. And that's what open source actually unlocks. If you do it right, that means that you need to architect for open source. So when we build a feature, what does build for open source mean? Well, when you build a feature, if you build it for a SaaS, you could just mask the code. It doesn't need to be the prettiest code, because they never will see that code, right? But they will never be able to extend it. When we build a feature, the building of the feature is like 30% of the work. Then you got the other 30% where you need to think about, how do we architect this feature so it's fully customizable, extendable, maintainable, doesn't cause performance issues when somebody extends it and changes the way it works. And then you got the other 30%, which is document all of that, make sure the code is pretty, make sure it's 100% unit test coverage, functional test coverage, write some example plugins on top of it. So we have to go 2 to 3x more in our effort in building open source. But that means that a large organization can take our product, and every single aspect of the solution is fully customizable in a very maintainable way. And there's documentation and examples how to do that, which means that they, as an organization, they don't need to adopt to using our product. Instead, they adopt our product to their organization, so it fits seamlessly within their existing ecosystem. It can also integrate with other applications and tools that are behind the firewall, that have some custom APIs. It can integrate with tools that they've created, because when you're working with a SaaS vendor, if there's a marketplace and there's an integration, awesome. But if there's not, you're locked out of that. With us, you're not, right? So with Webiny, we like to say, with Webiny, you're going to get 80% out of the box, right? And that's intended. The other 20 is what makes you unique. It's your secret sauce. And using our developer toolkit, you will be able to map that 20 into Webiny, and you're going to have a product that you feel is working for you, not against you.
Very cool. And you mentioned the developer toolkit, and you're totally right. We have fairly limited customizations with some kind of, let's call it standard SaaS DXPs or content platforms, and working with open source really unlocks those doors. And I know you have a bias or an emphasis on kind of the developer aspect of the product. Do you want to talk about Webiny's kind of developer toolkits and how you engage with the developer community?
Yeah. And maybe just before I jump into that, just to mention a comment on your comment where like enterprises are a little reluctant about open source. I think there's two types of enterprises: enterprises that embrace open source and enterprises that just prefer off-the-shelf SaaS solutions. The ones that embrace open source by culture and nature are way more efficient because they understand the power of open source. Open source oftentimes doesn't mean, there's a saying, I don't remember who said it, but it's like open source is not free beer, it's free speech, right? It gives them that underlying control that no SaaS can ever do, right? And for some enterprises, that is the most important thing. It gives them that freedom and control, and that's what open source means for a lot of those enterprises. And they will stick to an open source solution, not because it's cheap, or sometimes it doesn't need to be cheap, or that it's free at all. No, they don't mind paying. They want to even pay a premium for open source to get back that freedom and control that open source unlocks. To come to your other question, so about Webiny's developer toolkit and what do we do and how do we engage with developers? By being open source, you do have certain responsibility that you don't have as a SaaS. That is a responsibility towards a developer, right? You have a community. A SaaS can have a community. You have a developer, but a SaaS might just mean, hey, here's my docs for my API. We have to do it completely different, right? We need to think about every single line of code that we write, what a third-party developer might see when they look at that. How would they be able to extend that and understand from a logical standpoint of how that extension needs to work or will work, or what are the possibilities in which this can be customized and things like that, right? So we have to think about a lot of different things because our product is not just our, let's say, headless CMS, which is one of the applications we have, but our product is also our design system. Our product is also our documentation. Our product is also our development framework. All of these things are products for us, and we need to take that type of a view. It's not just something you bolter on top of a feature you built. No, it is a first-class citizen, and we treat it as a feature. Our docs page is a product for us, right? That we invested a lot of time in figuring out how do you do documentation properly, how do you version documentation, and all of that. Our upgrade guides, we have a whole set of mechanisms the developers can use as supporting tools to upgrade Webiny versions more seamlessly, more safely, migration guides. These are all the tools and things that we take a great pride in creating, and we are creating those tools for people like us, developers, engineers, people that want to get things done, that don't want to kind of fight the code or fight the upgrade guide or just be confused about it. We deeply invest into that aspect. We're not perfect, we're far from it, and we still have a long way to go, but developers are people that we talk to every day. We have, I don't know, close to 3,000 developers on our Slack, and they come give feedback. We have an open source GitHub repository with 7,000 stars. People report issues there. So we do everything publicly. Our roadmap's public, our PRs are public, our next release milestones are public. You can see every single line of code that goes into that. So being transparent, open, to developers and understanding what they want out of a product, how will they use a product and manage it, is something that we think about a lot. And every feature we build has that, let's say, angle to it, besides the angle of how a marketing person will use it, how a non-technical person will use it, and things like that, right? So, and that's how we design everything we do at Webiny.
Oh, very cool. You mentioned in passing that one of the products is kind of headless CMS or headless opportunities. Always a question I love to ask to everyone on the show. What is headless? Our customers still don't really know what that is. It's a strange term. Sounds a little weird. What's your take?
Yeah, I would say still about 50 to 60% of the market doesn't know what headless is. Especially people migrating from, let's say, legacy solutions like Drupal, like WordPress, so solutions that come with a head, because they then say, like, they don't understand the fact that, hey, we stop at the API layer, and then you need to build this other part. It's really bad for user experience. It's bad from the product experience, right? It is awful from a product experience. People want products with less friction, and here is a friction size of a Titanic, right? It does come with a lot of benefits, right? But you just need to pass that friction. You, as a content platform, you need to give a full package. Just decouple it. Don't just give the bit to the API. Give the other bit, but it has to be decoupled. So you need to ship a full end-to-end solution, not just that bit, because customers will feel the friction, will struggle with best practices in how to use the API, how to fetch pages, how to pre-render pages, how to serve them from cache, deploy them on CDN. There's a whole plethora of challenges that comes after that. Vercel and Next.js solved some of those, but still, it's a big, big friction. It's like me giving you a car that just has the engine. Right. It's like, yeah, it is the most expensive part. Yes, it runs, but you're not going to get anywhere. That's currently headless, how a lot of companies do it, and it's not the best, right? But unfortunately, that's the case, because like we ship, I don't know, here's the headless with the Next.js front end as a package, so it's much easier to adopt. But then somebody can come, yeah, but we use, I don't know, PHP for our front end or some other framework or something custom. And it's like, they're going to feel that friction. They just, well, there's no way around it unless they jump to Next.js. And in some cases, that means learning a new technology for somebody.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about commercial open source, and I thought maybe there's an opportunity to share a couple of the customers that maybe well-recognized brands to give some kind of some comfort in knowing that large organizations have this methodology of being in control of their stuff. Do you want to share a couple of case studies with me?
Yeah. I'll share two. So 2 case studies. I would say one big advocate of open source is Siemens. So here in Europe, it's a worldwide brand. Everybody knows it. But what people don't know is that, for example, Siemens has a whole organization dedicated to advocating open source, contributing to open source. Like they're one of the top contributors to GitLab, an open source alternative to GitHub. Oh, so Siemens not only uses, but they actually give back, which is awesome to see. And one of the main reasons why when Siemens was looking for their new CMS, they picked us, was that open source aspect, because they, as an organization, they work in a very specific way, and they need to do things in a very specific way. And with us, that meant that they're going to be heavily customizing the product, and we allowed that, right? We allowed to translate all of those business requirements directly into the admin platform, that there's a specific way of how things are organized on the content side, like no other CMS, that there's a specific way how there's relationship between the content. Again, no other CMS has that. And like we looked at some of these things, even from the aspect like Siemens is doing it, do we want to move it into a product? And like, there's a lot of very, very specific things that just work for them as an organization. And our product did deliver on that aspect where it allowed them to do that, which was great, right? There's a key to have an amazing development team in between that can take our product, customize it for them. So we had a partner in the mix, which did an amazing job there. But for example, that was one great success story where a large organization with hundreds of regional offices, hundreds of thousands of pages, thousands of content editors is using an open source solution, right? The other example would be MotorTrend. They are the largest automotive media portal in the world. For them, again, they took Webiny from the aspect of being a modern serverless-based open source content platform. And again, they went in and heavily customized everything. And like we have a private chat with them where their engineers and our engineers collaborate basically on a daily basis. When they pitch an idea, there's never a no with Webiny. It's going to be either we're going to build it and it's going to be available to you, or we're going to give you a path how you can build it and then own it, right? There's never, you can't do this Webiny. Such a thing doesn't exist in our world, right? But like these two large organizations, and I believe like MotorTrend does a couple of billion content views a month, a big database of like hundreds of millions of records, petabytes of assets, all of that works seamlessly on our platform, right? And they were able to then add hundreds and hundreds of customizations specifically for their team, for their editorial needs on top of our platform in a very maintainable way, because they're still updating the platform on a regular basis.
Interesting. Got to bring up AI into this conversation somehow. Time goes by pretty quickly. I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who's making some time during their lunch hour over in the Eastern time zone, and feel free to ask us any questions or follow up later if something comes to mind. We'll go through any of the comments on our posts here, and we'll be sharing all of this and segments of it on our social channels afterwards as well. But what's your take on AI? What's going on? Are you all in, observing what's happening over there?
I think from our end, it's a bit of a mix, a bit of everything. So first of all, being open source and allowing customers to have full control. Our view is that we need to be agent agnostic. Some customers want to use ChatGPT, some Claude, some want to bring their own trained LLMs. So we need to work across the board. And being open source, what we do is just provide integration points where you can then enrich the experience with AI, and you can mix and match AI agents as you like, right? So we're standing back. Also, we're talking a lot to our customers, and there's quite a range of perceptions in terms of how they want to use AI. We have customers that say, look, I want to generate as much content as possible through AI and a human only kind of reviews and publishes. That's one aspect. But then on the other opposite end of that, we have customers that say, look, I want my content editors be my creative team. They create all of the content themselves, and AI automates everything around the content they've created, be that SEO tags, keywords, taxonomy, recommendations, stuff. AI does everything but the content. And in the first example, AI does the content and the human does the other. So we have two different approaches. So we don't want to, as a platform, prescribe what and how you should be working, because you as an organization are taking a holistic AI approach. If not, you should. And that means that you want to replicate, you want a tool into which you can replicate your AI strategy, not a tool that's going to prescribe one AI strategy on one end because you're using that tool, and then on another end using a different tool that has a different approach. It's going to be very messy for you, right? So we need to keep the doors open towards how you should be using AI. Should you be using AI? Yes, you should. That's a definite right answer. And that's kind of like on the back. That's on the back office. That's on the admin panel. How do you enrich and make sure that the teams are more productive with AI, right? But then there's, I think that next stage of web, which is going to be web that is being purposely built for AI, right? There's no visibility on the internet about that, but it's just a question of when, because we as humans, we should value our time. If we're not, we should be. That means that if I'm searching for an information, QA, hey, chat, find me the best. Now I go to, I don't know, ChatGPT, list me the best, I don't know, top 10 developer-friendly CMSs, and OpenAI gives me a list, right? And then I go to the website of each of these. But that's like stepping from 2025 into 2000s. I still need to read the pages, go one page at the other, and then create myself an Excel sheet on the side. But what if that I can go on a Webiny website and stuff like that and have more an agentic experience, that the web becomes agent first, in a way that every website is just a bubble into which I type in what I want to know and it tells me. I don't need to be clicking through pages and browsing and reading text, right? Because that feels already today, at least for me, old school, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of browsers that are now patching and adding, hey, here's an OpenAI extension that can summarize this page for you. Fine, right? But it still has limited context. What if I have content editors that create AI-specific content that's being fed directly as a context into the agent that lives on my website? I come there, I type in my question, I get my response. I'm a happy person. I've just saved myself a bunch of clicking and scrolling, right? So we're in transition period. I think a lot of things will change. And as that web changes, there's going to be a lot of changes on what is a web analytic, what events we want to track, how do we understand who's an engaged customer, who's not, what do funnels look like. All of these things in like next 12 months to a couple of years, it's going to be a very different experience than today, I think.
Yeah, I'm really with you. We've been doing a bit of prototyping with websites that are just creating content on the fly with agents reading a brand prompt and a governance prompt and keeping everything in check. And it seems like we're not far away from platforms enabling that as well. I noticed we're a little bit technically out of time, but I did have another question for you, if you don't mind, before we go, just around personalization. Our CMOs are our typical customer and viewer of our content, and that conversation comes up often. What are your thoughts on personalization?
I think the personalization is not going to happen on the websites. It's going to become irrelevant. Personalization is going to happen at the chat bot level, where I ask, hey, here's my context. I'm a CMO in this organization. I'm using this today. Here are my challenges. Recommend me top 5 products to resolve this problem. This is where the personalization is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't need the personalization on the website. That's gonna become less relevant. Of course, there's the e-commerce bit where I put something in my cart and then you suggest that remains. But personalization on the content level, I think it's going to become irrelevant. Content in general, how we present it visually on the website, it's going to become irrelevant. Websites are just going to be information context to bots eventually. I'm after information as a human being. I'm not after. I like it when it's nicely presented, but if I can get my answer in 2 seconds versus 20 minutes or a couple of days, I would prefer a bubble where I ask my question and the bubble gives me an answer, right? So that's going to be the personalization. It is the most personalization you can have.
Yeah, great points, and a unique take as well. Because there's a lot of emphasis on other platforms too. How do we get things hyper personalized? Do we create like 100 images that are going to kind of pick and choose based on something? And that's a lot of work for not a lot of real impact. Because like you said, I want some info, and you can see that even with design right now, even larger brands are, I guess, pulling back on ultra fancy kind of JavaScript stuff because it takes a long time and it's tricky to read for SEO. And
anything that has even a bit of a friction is gonna be faded away. And browsing a website today, no matter how fast that website is bigger friction than going and asking a bot to give me an answer, right? So if you then extrapolate that into the extreme, you're gonna get an experiment where every human being is not gonna be interested in the internet anymore, right? They're gonna be interested in typing into a bubble. The internet is still going to exist, but it's going to exist as a data repository, and we're going to still need to manage it somehow, right? But you don't need to be showing all of that data publicly because people won't care. You're just going to be building websites for nobody, right? It's going to be a question and answer future for everyone. So, and we're heading in that direction. So a lot of these practices, be that personalization, JavaScript widgets, all of that's going to go away, I think. It's going to be, again, irrelevant. You can already see massive drops in Google traffic across the world, right?
Yeah, it's interesting times, and also a great conclusion and segue into a quick promotion for our show next week, where we're going to feature Janice Lee, who's the head of customer success over here at Dot Fusion, actually. And we're going to be talking about this exactly, kind of the future of the webless web as we know it. And I like the terms you use. It's kind of your content repository or your data repository, really. And what happens and how do agencies and customers and platforms all make these adjustments. So 12:35 over here in Toronto. Sven, thank you very much. I appreciate you making your time to join us. Like really awesome insights. Thanks to everyone who made time during their day or early evening to join us here. And we'll be back next week with episode 29. And have a great afternoon. We'll talk to everyone later.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks to everybody. Bye. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.